Okay, so hi, yeah, it's Matt again. Beginning is so difficult with these for some reason, and I'm always so nervous. So I'm just going to plow straight in, and what we're going to do is put a first glaze of colour over this arm here of this painting. And hopefully it shouldn't take too long. I've oiled out, so it's all just got a very subtle, slippery surface. That's just the way I like it. Everyone has their own way, but you can't see it. But if I touch it with my finger, there's definitely this oil on the surface, just a very, very fine layer. So I brushed it on and then wiped it off very gently with a fine cloth. So what I'm going to do is just try and find a sort of base shadow colour for this area, and then we'll just we'll see how it goes. So again, just for ease of use, I'm going to use the canvas to mix as a palette. I'm going straight in with white too. So in the original reference, it's fairly green actually. I'm just guessing at the start, yeah. Just guessing. That seems a bit too green. So I need some alizarin just to neutralize that. Okay, so I love using this sap green and crimson or red as a mixture for shadow tones. It's really my sort of go-to. And it's quite good, I'm realizing, just to have some white in here as well. It just gives it a little bit more opacity, again, which is a very fine line. We don't want to overdo it, but I'll work into this. So it's fairly dry actually. There was a bit of medium on the brush, but yeah, it feels quite dry. But as I said, the canvas is ever so slightly slippery. So looking at that, it's all quite warm, but hopefully this will everything will become apparent. And remember, I'm also using the depth of colour, the depth of value, I should say, of the grisaille underpainting. So I have put in a little bit of burnt umber on my palette, just in case, it just gets a bit too much mixing all of this up. So because this has got quite warm, I'm just going to try a little bit of blue to cool it. On this arm, I hope you can see that, I definitely approached it in the same way. So I reckon it should be fairly similar. And so just to say, I have actually sort of calculated these rough mixes, already been through on a journey with that. And I want the grey to show through. I think that's a beautiful optical effect. So I don't want it to disappear entirely. I'm not just going over it. It certainly helps, in terms of the drawing, etc. But I love that optical quality it has when it just shows through, which I think is very, very similar to the sort of cool shadow tones on this sort of fair-skinned person, I suppose. Same would apply with any skin colour. So it's going to get lighter now. Just, obviously I'll try not to rush. So it's green, some blue, I'm trying to cool it down, but this is a warm area still. And I think, the moment it sort of fills it, it's looking even quite close already to what I'm after in the long run. So it just needed something over the shadows that I've already drawn. I've been careful, and so I know I can just be a bit slapdash about this. And this is the first glaze. I can refine it later, so I don't need to worry, but I'm not losing the drawing. I think I do see sometimes people, you know, you can go over the grisaille with, you know, very sort of opaque, like half paste, and you lose it. And for me, I don't understand that when we've spent a long time finishing the drawing, resolving the drawing. Why just sort of redo it? Why we don't need to reinvent the wheel there. We can just go with what we've done. We've already had and resolved all of the problems. Right. So I'm going for something lighter now. This is somewhere between the two. It's quite yellow, feels. That's going to be very dark and too warm. That's too much yellow. I have to put a bit more white on my canvas actually, and so I'm going to go and get a bit more medium because it feels quite dry. This is something like it down here. So again, that's quite opaque, but it's moving towards the very light highlights. But here you can see where I've drawn in this highlight already. It sort of works like that. So it's dark here, just underneath, and then into something almost white. So that will be nice to do with some yellow, red and white. It's very simple but really effective. I don't know if this is entirely right, but I'm just going to do it for now just to sort of give an example. It's a bit warmer, but in the reference, you know, this is sort of under artificial light, so it has kind of an odd, it sort of glows as the light shines through it in a very sort of orange way. Okay, so what I need to do is find something. This is a bit lighter here, and it's not opaque enough actually, so you can see the brush strokes, and that's not something I want too much of. But we can still relax because this is the first glaze. And now I'm thinking about, look, so this is, I'm drawing, you've got the muscle, the bicep is here and actually highlighted, just folds into the crease of the elbow. And so what I'm doing is mixing what's already there. So the very dark colour is already there, but it doesn't cover the entirety of this bicep here. So I'm just going to go over, but mixing it. So I've got sort of like something happy medium between the two. This is quite sort of it's a dark area, but midway. Probably need a bigger brush, to be honest, but this is okay. And this is quite warm actually, just where it transitions, just this bit here. And then all of this is sort of like one area there. You know, and this is, yeah, so it's exactly the way that I approached it on the other arm. That's far too dark for that. So up here, it's this is green, so it's a green this is much darker as well. So this is sort of catching some light that's shining from down here. There's light above, but then the arm is turning, so the plane is sort of here, I think, and it's really in quite a dark shadow. but there is a difference between here and this mid section. So it's still quite warm, but I'm going to use it. It's okay. Again, I can cool it later if I want. I'm just going to put something on there. So, you know, I might, you know, I'd take a bit more time over this. It's all right. I could do it later, or, you know, but just because we're making telly, we just want to do it, you know, in a watchable way. This is very dark down here. And what I want to do is make it consistent. So if I'm leaving areas of colour, areas where the grey is showing through, I don't want that to be, you know, more or less. You know, sometimes, yeah, I'm guilty of that, where it's patchy. Right, so it's quite warm. This is just cadmium red and cadmium red hue and cadmium yellow pale hue, and they're just great for mixing skin tones. Now this is the shoulder, this deltoid there. I can't quite see what's happening with it, but this is a lighter area, light and very warm. And so is here, just definitely has a bit more shadow, but that's warm. And then up here, so I'm just going to go around similar areas that I can spot. I'll just use this, it's on my brush. I can just sort of fill in as such. So it's a lot richer, this arm now. I realize, you know, I can see from when I was doing the earlier version. In the earlier version I would correct, or certainly this arm, you know, I'll correct later, and I'll deepen this shaded area, this shadow here around the elbow and the tricep and the shoulder. I'm not going to do that. I would be tempted to do that now, and I think, yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, that's what I would ordinarily do. Is I've done one at a time, and I'm just, for the purposes of the video, I'll just stick with the one. But, you know, I haven't oiled this out, but I probably would do it because I need to balance the two, otherwise they're going to look sort of slightly odd. So just going to give my brush a wipe. I'm just going to use the one brush. Even. Oh, sorry, try not to show myself. Right. I gave it a little wipe. I gave it a little clean, because I'm just going to try and find something that's very light. And seeing as we're going down here in the value scale, I'll just stay over here with the lightest areas, which just feel quite yellow. So I'm just guessing. And I can use the highlights that are there because it's white. The white's going to show through, so it really adds a beautiful lightness. Actually, looking at that, that's really lovely. But there's a bit more colour involved. Excuse me. White alone is very cool, so I can just very gently go over that. This is pure optical effect. Just allow the white to shine through there. This is pretty good, really. That's annoying. There's just some stray hairs here that are going onto the other part, but it's all right. So I'll probably use a finer brush, just maybe later, just to do these sort of highlights. This bit. So it's quite becoming very yellow. So I'm just going to go a bit more white and then a touch of red. That's pink, too pink. So I don't know what yellow actually does to it, but it just warms it. So it's not pink alone, it's very just red and white. It's very sort of cool, but the yellow gives it a nice warmth. So I'm looking for something that is yellow, not too yellow, and that's not too bad. It's a bit pink, but I will, you know, if it doesn't quite feel right, I'm definitely going to go over that regardless in the second glaze. Just, you know, it's just a second attempt. That's all that means. Just having another go. It's always guessing, so you know, we just guess better. No, I sort of misinterpreted that before. There's a bit too much shadow there. It's actually lighter, but then this darker grisaille is showing through. What I'm looking for is sort of just a bit lighter there, so I can, yeah, give a sense of the tricep. There's this basically shoulder and the ball socket joint of the shoulder, and you know, this area here where it goes into the deltoid behind. As I continue, I'll get better at the anatomical references. I'll learn it. So not being too worried. This is to give a general idea, you know, it's not, I'm not saying this is going to be finished at all. But you know, it gives you just, it's all about the process, isn't it? So it feels dark and maybe too cool, I'm not sure. It's where this tendon comes down into the forearm. There's a sort of, it catches the light there, and then it catches it underneath as well. So this is slightly lighter around here, and this is the, you know, it's the same approach every time. If this shadow, you know, I've already put it down, so I can just work into it, and that it does work really well. So I'm just effectively mixing on the canvas itself. It's just that the colours are just weird anyway. Trust me, I'm making excuses. They're weird anyway because it's artificial light, and yeah, well, that's it. It's just artificial light. So, and they're just, the shadow is, it is this colour. It's this greeny, quite sort of thick green, rich, warm green, and then this flattens out. So that's patchy, and I don't want that. So I've got this light brush. I might try and find another one. Yeah, this won't be too bad. So I'm going to come back. I think that's the right colour. It's just sort of here, sort of warm mid-tone. That's not right, so I don't know where I did that. This brush is too stiff. So it's somewhere like there. So that's too pink. You can see that relative to this. So what I would do, you know, is just spend the time modeling this form, which I don't need to right this moment, just for the purposes of making this film. But you know, if anyone is listening and wants me to film myself doing it much more slowly, then yeah, let me know and I will, if that helps. Now that was a classic example of just losing concentration. So you just can't continue, but I took my eye off the reference. I didn't necessarily make a mistake, but there's a real danger sometimes in just carrying on and not really being aware of where you're going, what's happening, and then mistakes start to creep in. But it depends on your perspective, really. At the moment, I am looking for something that looks relatively like the reference, whereas someone else might want to be a lot more, have a lot more freedom in terms of interpreting the image. This is it's quite dark, all of this. It relates to this. I'll do a little bit because I'm just, even though I haven't oiled out, that's okay. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to have to remake shadow because I've lost all of that now. So something, yeah, it's very, very rich, warm, really deep green around here. So that's cadmium red. This crimson feels a bit too much. I probably need some blue to cool it. That's light, it's too light. Oh. Because that's too light, I'm just going to try it here. Because I want something warmer. And I need something warm and opaque here. This is probably good for just transitioning through and around here. And just mixing. It's just halfway between the two. It's not very nice. No. You know, you can overwork these things sometimes. I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to get some new brushes. So it's all feeling quite green, but the point is, you know, if I come back down here, then they're going to relate to each other. You know, there's a sort of a symmetry. It's something like that, but you know, there's plenty of time to go over that. That's only had one glaze, so you know, we don't need to panic. And what I'd always do is just, yeah, if it's not working, you can just adjust it. it's because the face is very warm, but that's, you know, honestly what it feels like. But then I'm going to have to bring the two together, because otherwise there's some dissonance, so I don't want that. So this is a greeny shadow, but maybe I didn't, it's too red. I'm going to just get rid of that brush and clean this one. Too red, so somewhere between the two. But yeah, what I think, there is a highlight there that I've over painted, so I'll go over that. But this is quite warm. I need a red. I need something much warmer, because I need to bring these two together, bring all of this area together. This is correct, I think, looking at it, for around here. So there's definitely that. And I said, look, I've only just seen that, and I hadn't seen it before, just, you know, at this moment. But now, because I've just pursued it, then suddenly things start to become a little bit clearer. So I'm just, it's not much, it's just ever so slightly richer red, but that is, it's definitely helping the balance across all of the forms. So yeah, and this works so efficiently now because of the colours that are there. Well, you know, efficiently, but you know, it's going on, and it's not actually, it doesn't appear to jar at all with anything that's already there. So there are areas where it's very, very warm. So I'm just going to try and find something. And I'm talking about where the light, as I mentioned before, the light shines through the blood in the hand. And it sort of turns this almost orange. Likewise here, it seems quite dark, but around, it's lighter there, but sort of, I'm after some sort of parallel with it. Now I can use that really warm colour to just somehow work into that, possibly. Something around here. So faces, so yeah, I've got to then, so it's still warm. I'm looking for, this wasn't quite right, but what I've got to do is bring some of the green back into here, back into this shadow around the neck. Not much overdone. I spent a long time drawing that, so I don't need to overthink it, or just, so I'm trying to bring it all together. So yeah, I mean, this is sort of a new phenomenon in a way for me, because I wouldn't necessarily film like something this large, and so I have to film this entire process. I thought I could just do the arm, but it doesn't work like that. If I'm painting all of it, and this is exactly how I would think it through. You can see. So there you go. So I can also use that as an example. I don't have to oil out. I don't know what that doesn't really. It's a bit extreme, that bit over there. So it's a second glaze. I'm just warming that. So that's not right, so that's too warm. And okay, I'm just not going to get carried away. So what I can do is just give the brush a clean, dry it. It's got to be really dry, and then just go through here, just model this just a little bit. It's close to what I want. It is close to what I want. But then I think what would improve everything is possibly just going back and looking at the highlights again. So that's white, very, very light yellow, but just finding a bit of this pink that's already there, because too yellow, not light enough. Some medium. Again, too yellow. I've got to just utilise the coolness of the white. I did say earlier that I want to preserve the white that's there, and I think that's worked really beautifully just here. But then there is a sort of lighter, cooler area. Okay. And all of this I think I did it too warm, and the drawing's not quite resolved. But I quite like this. I might not like it later, but that feels all right. It's also sort of this area, actually, looking at it, which was quite pink before, so I'm just pop that on, and then up into here. That's gonna, it's gonna help all of this, but then it's just getting a little bit dry. I'm sort of rushing. I don't want to rush. But again, I'm trying to unify the whole. Also, I've spent a long time doing it, but it's not. That doesn't harm it. So that's typical of my working process. This is when I did it earlier, the other day. It was, I just used some pink and it was just a little bit pink, too pink. So this is a bit more yellow. And what I need to do as well, actually, I mean, the light is very, very white up there. So yeah, just leave that. But a bit more white, just want something slightly cooler. I'm just going to go round down in this tricep. I've got to make sure I just hold the drawing. Unfortunately, there's just a little bit of gubbins there that's made a mark. So I'll just... No, I don't think that's right, but it's what we're doing is thinking about it in terms of, you know, just laying a foundation for the next layer. And that's not that great, but you know, I think I'll leave it now. I'm kind of where I would expect to get to, just in terms of the first glaze on that, and everything's redeemable. And yeah, I think you know, I feel like I'm in a good place to proceed onto the next stage, and then I will work over everything you know, together. I'll probably oil it all out and then you know, try and work so it's just sort of touches, highlights, looking, trying to unify everything. And then yeah, I think so it's just going from black and white to colour, just fairly, there you go. It's a pretty transparent process when you see it. Okay, so I hope that was useful. I'd really appreciate anyone's feedback if anyone is watching. Okay,